Alright, let's kick off this explainer with a bit of a puzzle. And this one comes straight from our source material. Yeah, that's a weird question, right? I mean, when you think of history, you think of battles, empires, big human ideas, not goats and, digestive enzymes. It feels like these two things are from completely different planets. But get this, it's not a mistake. This is a real instruction from a guide for Nigerian history teachers. They are literally being told to teach biology in a history class. And yeah, on the surface, that makes zero sense. So this isn't just some confusing mix-up. It's actually a clue, a really big one, pointing to a super powerful teaching method. But to crack this, we've got to back up a little and first get a solid handle on what we even mean by historical skills. Okay, so let's lay that groundwork. We'll see how it all circles back to our mystery. So what are we talking about here? Well, at its heart, historical methodology is basically the official rule book for being a time-traveling detective. It's not just about memorizing dates and names, right? It's about having a real structured process to figure out what actually went down. And it seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? A nice, neat four-step process. But here's the kicker. The tools historians use, especially in steps 2 and 3, have changed. I mean, dramatically. Okay, let's jump in our time machine and wind the clock all the way back. We're going to meet the original historian, the storyteller. You have to imagine, the ancient historian was working with so little. They had to be absolute masters at piecing together these huge, sweeping stories from just a handful of precious, often fragile clues. Their whole job was to build that big picture, even if all they had were a few broken pieces. And this mushroom analogy, it's perfect. They could describe the mushroom, what it looked like, its shape, its color. They could tell you what happened. But the nitty-gritty how and why, that was way harder to get to. They saw the mushroom, sure, but they had no way of seeing the invisible network of cells and nutrients underneath that actually made it grow. Alright, now let's hit fast forward. We're jumping to today to meet a totally different breed of historian, the data detective. And their toolkit, it has just exploded. I mean, a modern historian can sit at their desk and access databases from all over the world. They can analyze ancient DNA, use software to spot patterns in millions of documents. This is stuff the ancient storyteller couldn't even have imagined in their wildest dreams. So back to our mushroom, we're not just looking at it anymore. Now, with these incredible new tools, we can literally analyze its DNA. We can finally understand all those internal processes, the hidden forces that were shaping the past, right down to a microscopic level. And this table really breaks down that massive shift. You can see it right here. History went from being this art of preserving memory and teaching lessons to being a science of rebuilding the past and investigating theories. The goal wasn't just to tell the story anymore, it was to test the story. And this is what powered that whole change. Just look at the difference. The amount of pure information, of raw data that historians have now has just skyrocketed. And this data explosion, it didn't just give them more stuff to look at. It completely changed the game. It changed the kinds of questions they could even think to ask. Okay, so now we've seen how much the job of a historian has changed. We've got the background, we are ready. Let's finally solve that puzzle from the beginning. So let's ask it again. Why on earth would a guide about teaching modern high-tech historical skills tell teachers to start with goats and yams? What's the connection? It's time to connect those dots. And here's the thing. The person who wrote this guide wasn't confused. Not at all. They were being incredibly smart, actually. They were using a teaching trick that is probably as old as humanity itself. The secret is analogy. That's the key. See, the biology lesson was never the point. It was the tool. The whole idea is super simple when you think about it. If you want to understand something that's new and kind of abstract, you connect it to something you already know that's real and concrete. An historian analyzing his source, that's abstract. A goat eating and digesting a yam for a student in Nigeria, that's real life. It's tangible. You can picture it. So what the guide was doing was just brilliant. It was showing teachers how to take this invisible mental process of historical analysis and make it feel totally real. Think about it. In the same way you can break down how a goat gets nutrients from a yam, you can break down how a historian gets facts out of an old document. The biology wasn't a detour at all. It was the bridge that connected the student's world to the historian's world. So when you put it all together, our little puzzle has actually shown us two really big things. First, we saw how the study of history has completely evolved, right? From storytelling to data science. And second, we stumbled upon this incredibly powerful way to learn anything. Use what you know to understand what you don't. And that kind of leaves us with a final big question to think about. In a world where we have more and more data, just endless streams of it, does that ancient skill of the storyteller, that ability to build a bridge, to make an analogy, to tell a compelling story, does that become more important or less? Something to chew on. Thanks for watching.